My name is Lexi Reiner Proke Jr., and my father is a convert to the church, and my maternal grandparents are converts to the church. When I was in college is when I started getting interested in family history. I took a family history class at BYU, and I was lucky enough to go to BYU where the family history library is gargantuan. And at first I thought that family history work was just something that you did if you had extra time. And I found that as I learned more about my family, this became something that was important to me, something that I thought about and obsessed over, and something that I felt like drew me closer not only to my family, but also to my Savior. In the course of my family history class and afterwards, I specifically tried to work on my father's line because he had the least amount of work done. And I found out my great-grandmother, I found out her name and her work. Her name is Diantha Gray, and I actually got to do all of her work in the temple from baptism to sealing. And that was a really beautiful experience for me, and I got to do that for several of my ancestors. And I never really understood when people said that, when I learned more about my ancestors, I learned more about myself, but that definitely happened to me during that process. I felt more connected to who I was just by learning about people who were related to me.
I'm Robin Wicker. I'm in the Reedy Creek Board of the Charlotte, North Carolina Central Stake, and I have a family history story to tell you. We were converts to the church, and at the age of 19, my brother was called to serve a mission in Holland and Belgium. We knew that our grandfather was a stowaway from Holland or Belgium. Wasn't sure which place, but as my brother served his mission and on his days off, his P days, he was able to do research in different towns. At the end of his mission, at that time, the church allowed the missionaries to tour the area, and he was touring with another missionary who was leaving at the same time. And the other missionary bought a car, and the car broke down on this little tiny country road, and it was right on the border of Holland and Belgium. And they walked up to this gas station to get help for the car, to get repairs. And this old man was sitting on the porch of this gas station, country store, and my brother said that he was Elder Senzi from the United States, and this old man who happened to look like my father and had family resemblance got to his feet and said, "Who did you say you were?" And he says, "I'm Elder Senzi from the United States, and I'm representing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and our car broke down." And this old man grabbed my brother by the lapels of his jacket and shook him. And my brother was kind of shocked, and the old man said, "What is your family? What is your grandfather's name?" And he says, "My grandfather is Sebastian Senzi." And he said, that is my brother who left this country when he was 12 years old. We've not heard if he was dead or alive or where he ended up. And it was a great reunion for our family, and a great connection was made. And since then, the Senzi family from Belgium have been over here twice for family reunions, and it's just been a wonderful experience to connect the families on both sides of the water. Family history is important.
Hi, my name is Charlene Byers, and I've had a love for genealogy for many years since I was in college. Got started with at BYU, and my first attempt at genealogy was to go to an aunt who had done a lot of genealogy, and I got all of her information, and she had quite a bit and good stories about our family. And as the years went on, I became a mother and got very involved in being a mother, and it was sort of put aside. But then later on I got into it again and just really loved it and was able to get more genealogy from other family members, especially another aunt who was also doing genealogy. And then the wonderful age of the internet came about, and I found that this was a great place to go to get genealogy, and I have found a lot of genealogy just on the internet. Never had to leave my house. The church has Family Search and the new Family Search now. And I think my most exciting genealogy find was on my grandmother's line, on the Thomas line, that I was able to research. They had lived here in North Carolina, in Rockingham, and had come over, had first settled in Maryland, and then came out to North Carolina. But anyway, this line goes back to Wales, or Northern Gwynedd was where they lived, and they were kings for 700 years of Northern Gwynedd. And this line goes into the royal British line, the royalty line. And that's why it's so well documented, is because it is a royal line. And it does lead right back to Adam, and it goes through the royal line of David, and anyway, it's a very interesting line. And then I just very recently, about 2 weeks ago, was researching another line on my grandmother's line, the Collins line, and this line also leads back to this same kings of Wales. And so it is so fun to do genealogy and find the histories of these people and your ancestors. And so far, I haven't got anybody in my family interested in it, but I'm still trying. It's a great testimony builder. It connects you with your family and helps you to feel like you belong to somebody, and so you never know what you're going to find. And also recently, just this past year, I found on my father's side, which we had no information on at all, but I had a niece helping me, and we found out that my grandmother's line on my father's mother had Cherokee. So we go from Indian to the royal British line of the royal family. So there's a lot of fun things you can find out in genealogy. And also on one of my lines, we're also cousins to President Bush's, both of them. So there's some fun things to find out, and who knows what you're going to be able to find out about your ancestors.
My name is Susan Schilling, and I guess I've always been really interested in family history and my personal family history and researching my ancestors. I think it started when I was young. I used to keep the box of pictures that my parents had, all their older pictures, they kept in a drawer in my room. And so I always felt like they were my pictures. And so I kept these pictures, and I would organize them on Saturday when it was supposed to be time for me to clean my room. I wanted to put them in chronological order, and I looked at them all the time because they were mine. And even though they were really my parents, I really felt like that they were mine. And this possession that I had over the years, it's what inspired me to want to know more about who those people were and where those people came from. And my grandparents, I have a picture here. My grandparents were second cousins, and that's a story in itself. Their grandparents, their grandfathers were brothers. And so that made genealogy a little easier for me because two of the lines were the same line. So I only have to do research once for that line. But in my genealogy, my grandfather's grandfather, he married a lady, Margaret Shell, and they were married a few years, and they had 4 or 5 children, and then he decided one day that he would take a load of wood to sell 30 minutes away in the town of Hickory, and then he never came back. He left her there with 4 or 5 children to raise on her own, and then he went off to California. No one knew where he was, but he was off in California in Washington State, and there he married someone else and had a different life there. And then when he became ill, and on his deathbed, he told his second wife that he was married and had a family in North Carolina. Well, she didn't like that at all, and she put him on a train and sent him back home to North Carolina. And when he got there, his sons, one of them saw him coming over the hill, coming over the mountain, and went up to meet him because they didn't want him upsetting their mother seeing him there. I'm not sure how he knew who it was. Maybe there was already talk in town that he was on his way back. I'm not sure. But that son actually did take care of him, had him in a town a few miles away. Someone boarded him there until he passed away, and then they paid for him to have a gravestone on the family plot there. And that was just one interesting story I uncovered as I talked with my aunts and uncles, recording all their family memories that they had growing up, and the memories of their grandparents and their great-grandparents. And I actually wrote all those things down that they put on tape for me, and I made a book, which this is one of the pictures of the book that I made, of their memories. And I so enjoy learning those family stories and all about your ancestors. So please ask your aunt and uncles questions about the history, because one day they'll be gone and you'll want to have those stories written down. Thank you.